Pokemon Scarlet and Violet gave us 3 friend rival characters that each lead us down on a different path. After seeing us beat up some Team Star goons at the staircase, Penny decides to hack into her phone and use her Discord username Cassiopeia while trying to convince us that we should go help her take down Team Star. And by that I mean she sent out a threatening letter in her name from her alt account to all 5 of the Team Star bosses telling them that we're on our way to take them down. And by we, I mean me, because Penny is way too busy gaming in her room and eating hot chip or something. I don't know what the kids do these days. But in the spirit of playing through these games as various in-game characters, I decided that me is gonna mean we this time, because I'll be playing through the game as Penny, using her in-game team along with the same abilities, movesets, and a whole bunch of other rules that basically make me a near perfect clone of the character. I'm doing this in part because, well, democracy, but also because I'm curious if she actually needed our help for Operation Starfall, or if her team was strong enough to take down the Team Star bosses all along and she was just being shy. So without further ado, let's kick off this run by catching Penny's first Pokemon. Yeah, it's all Eevees, isn't it? There's basically 3 places where eevees spawn in this game. Medali, where Larry's office/bedroom is, Gurtondo, aka the olive capital of the world, and a single static spawn on the way towards the secluded beach. That one's gonna be our starter. And since I usually catch the rest of the team as they become available, I guess we're catching all 5 other eevees in Gurtondo. This team composition makes me think of that one hypothetical question of who would win, every Pokemon ever made, or a billion lions, but instead of lions we got eevees. As it turns out, Eevee is a pretty rare Pokemon, only spawning in the olive fields to the west of Gurtondo, and since they are a normal type, I thought it would be a good idea to make a... Where's the table? Never mind, okay, we can still make a sandwich. Wait, is this actually gonna work? Nope, I guess I'm eating a dirt sandwich. Thank you, Pokemon, for my lovely meal. Anyways, where was I? Alright, Eevees are so rare that I had to make a normal encounter sandwich, except that strategy wasn't that good of an idea because most of the Pokemon that spawn there are normal types anyways. Shiny Squavit? Found a shiny Squavit before I found a single Eevee. Anyways, after searching some more, I finally started to find those Eevees, although it took so long that I had to go make another sandwich, and as you might guess, there was still no table. So another dirt sandwich it is. Anyway, something I decided to do pretty early on is to nickname all of my Eevees based on whichever evolution they would turn into. That way I didn't accidentally evolve my Umbreon into an Espeon or my Flareon into an Umbreon and so on and so forth. To make sure I didn't mess up these evolutions even further, I went around the area looking for the TM for Charm, an early game fairy type move that would guarantee my first Eevee turn into a Sylveon. I kinda sped up the process a little by having that Eevee walk with me, even though it was definitely way too slow and I had to stop and wait for it a bunch of times. I also fed it some of the dirt sandwiches, and I gave it the Soothe Bell, which you can pick up early game from that somewhat secluded park/cafe area in East Messagoza. So, after throwing all of my Eevees at the poor trainers trying to make sure that the olive roll goes well this year, we got our first evolution. Then we went on to challenge Gym Leader Katie. Her lead Pokemon knows a fighting type move, which is a problem because it's the one weakness all of our Eevees have. So instead of attack with our lead, I decided to use the strategy owned by renowned dirt sandwich consumers, Sand Attack, which lowers accuracy. You know the drill, can't hurt us if it can't hit us. From there we just spammed Covet, which does a fair amount of damage, and once we knocked out her lead, we followed up with the Sand Attack strategy on her second Pokemon as well, and then spammed Covet with her next Eevee, and the plan was to do the same with her ace. Unfortunately, she outsped her current Eevee, got a crit hit on the next one, and had built up enough Fury Cutter chain to one-shot the third, leaving us with just Sylveon and 0 Pocket Sand. Things were not looking good. Thankfully, we still knew Charm, which helps lower its physical attack stat, and Fairy-type Pokemon happen to resist Bug-type moves, meaning we could actually survive the buffed up Fury Cutter, and we got a little extra help along the way. Thanks to Teddiursa's physical attack, it managed to trigger our cute Charm ability, making the bear fall in love with us, and even more likely to just not attack. That meant we could safely go on the offensive with our disarming voice, which took 2 hits to knock out Katie's ace, and earn us our first gym badge. Up next was Artisan with its Sunflora seeking quest, which wasn't too much trouble for Penny since half of them were fast asleep, the other half chose Violence, but that helped us get enough EXP to get another evolution, Umbreon. Then we went to challenge Brassius. Upon evolution, our Umbreon learned the move Snarl, which reduces the enemy's special attack. This was extra helpful since the Pedalo in this gym is a special attacker, using Mega Drain to sap her health. But thanks to our little debuff and outrageous special defense stat, that Mega Drain was more like a Micro Drain. That was a good thing because of course the Pedalo will put us to sleep, but we could basically just bulk through all of its attacks and then take it down once we wake up. Since Brassius' next Pokemon, Smoliv, is a physical attacker, we decided to use Baby Doll Eyes to lower its physical attack stat, then kept snarling at it until knocking it out. Things were looking good, but not for Umbreon, who was finally starting to run low on HP. So we had to switch over to the Eevee squad, which just spammed Sand Attack, and eventually swapped over to Covet, which overpowered the Sudowoodo and knocked it out. I'm starting to think that the Billion Lions might actually stand a chance. Anyways, after defeating Brassius, a new side quest is unlocked in Artisan, where you can go look for even more Sunflora in town, and if you collect at least 10 more, you get a special reward, the Leaf Stone, which can be used to evolve another one of our Eevees into Leafeon. We had also reached a point in the game where all of our Eevees could learn half of their endgame moveset. You see, since I have a rule on matching the moves to the in-game character, I sometimes have to deal with some very silly restrictions, like 2 of Grusha's Pokemon only knowing 3 moves each. With Penny, there's another interesting move combination, that being that all 6 of her evolutions know the same set of 2 moves, Quick Attack and Baby Doll Eyes. One move lets you attack first to pick off weak opponents, the other also lets you move first, but it only lowers the opponent's physical attack stat by 1 stage, doesn't do any damage. To be frank, I was a bit worried about doing a whole run where my whole team essentially knows the same 2 moves, but as you'll see later on, they turned out to be super useful. Moveset talk aside, it was time for us to move it to the other side of the map where Penny could pick up another useful item for this run, Rod Windmill, another useful item for this run, the Thunderstone. That way we could evolve yet another Eevee into Jolteon. Then we could finally have enough confidence to take on Team Star, starting with their Dark-type base, and it looks like we won't be at it alone since this really hip student named Clive has decided to come help us out. How does he help? Yes! Okay, he actually works the same way as any one of the vending machines you see throughout the base, so if you go talk to him, he's just gonna heal your Pokemon. And that's right, Clive is a vending machine with better marketing. Anywho, we easily took on the wave of random Dark-type Pokemon and got to challenge Giacomo. Still not sure if I'm saying this guy's name right. An instant challenge with his lead Pokemon is that it has the Defiant ability, which will turbo boost its attack stat if it's hit with any debuff, meaning we should not be using moves like Snarl or Baby Doll Eyes because that guarantees we'll lose the battle. Our only option with Umbreon is to hit it with Confuse Ray and then spam our super weak Quick Attack until it knocks us out with its Fury Cutters, just like Katie. We followed up with Jolteon, who could paralyze it with Thunder Wave, but couldn't do much more since those Fury Cutters were getting way too strong. We followed up with Leafeon, which had a really powerful move, X-Scissor. This move's TM is available early on in Mesagoza. All you have to do is jump down a few ledges near the sandwich shop on the east side of town. And since Bug-type moves are supposed to be super strong against Dark types, I was hoping we'd get to deal some major damage to the car. Hoping. Unfortunately, this War Machine that's immune to status effects for some reason decided to spam Metal Sound, which turbo lowers our special defense, and then switched to attacking with Snarl, which 2-shot us in our weakened state. Since we were starting to get back into a corner, it was time to throw out our 2 Eevees at it, spamming random moves to chip away at its health, until finally sending out Sylveon, who could finish it off since Fairy is thankfully strong against Dark-type Pokemon, and with that we've cleared our first Team Star base. Next we had to go to East Paldea, passing by another Team Star base, but having to skip it for now, since it's not next in line for this definitely not linear Pokemon game, and I want to do this run without being overleveled. So instead we had to make our way towards Levincia, where we stumbled upon a rather curious item, the Firestone, another evolution. We also decided to use the TM machine and craft a few copies of Mudslap just in case. Then we tried to go shopping, but couldn't find any items that would make us look more like Penny, so I guess it was time to go fight Iono instead. She leads with Wattrel, who can barely do any damage to our lead, meaning we get a nice easy KO after hitting it with a couple of Snarls. Her Bellibolt on the other hand is a lot more bulky, but we managed to give it a couple of debuffs with Snarl before it knocks out our lead. Out next was Jolteon, who decided to spam Mudslap, which is basically Sand Attack with minor damage. Thanks to all the debuffs, we managed to push through and get another knockout, and then we used the exact same strategy to slowly chip away at her Luxio's health and finished it off with a quick attack. That left Iono with just her ace, who is immune to ground type moves like Sand Attack and could power itself up using Charge Beam. Things were not looking good since it could almost one-shot our Flareon, which has a lot of special bulk. But thankfully our Fire Fang could deal some major damage in return, and then we could just use Quick Attack to finish things off before Iono could do anything else. Having claimed the third gym badge, we could now go back to the team starbase and take on their leader, Mela. Just like Yakumo, she leads with a very troublesome Pokemon, although this one is more bulk than power. Since we couldn't do much damage, we decided to debuff it a bunch with Snarl and Baby Doll Eyes. That way our Jolteon could take care of it without getting knocked out in the process. Of course, the real problem is the giant car, which debuffed itself while trying to take down Jolteon. We followed up with Flareon because we might as well fight fire with fire, and that turned out to be a great idea since this flaming hot wheel couldn't do much to our fiery fox. So we just spammed Bite over and over and over and over until eventually knocking it out. Talk about a meal high in iron. Flareon proved to be extremely useful in taking down one of the titans lurking near Levincia, however it would have to get benched right after since the upcoming water type gym could easily take it down. The good news for us is that there happens to be a water stone right behind said gym, so we could finally get our last evolution, Vaporeon. This would have been even more useful against Mela, but it's also taking the bench right now since you can't use water to fight water. Instead we'll fight it with Dark, spamming Snarl to weaken Kofu's first fish, and then Baby Doll Eyes to make this Whack-A-Mole hit less hard. And then we followed up with Jolteon, the real star of this show, who could one-shot it with Thundershock, but was definitely not strong enough to take on the giant crab. Thankfully, we also had Leafeon, which could slice it up better than the sashimi at Kofu's restaurant. Things were going great for Penny so far, but unfortunately for her, the Lag Tree Thicket had more than one way of slowing us down. Don Atticus is the leader of Team Star's Poison type base, and unlike the two leaders we've battled so far, he has 3 fully evolved Pokemon on his team, along with that powerful Starmobile. Not only that, but we lacked any super effective moves and our ace has a weakness against poison types, so as you can imagine, things were not looking good. I had to try this battle several times and in general the battles went as follow. Umbreon would get poisoned and spam Snarl to slowly chip away its Skuntank's health, then we'd follow up with Jolteon to spam Thundershock and knock out the Stinky Cat, although more often than not we got knocked out in the process. Vaporeon would then have to use several water pulses to wash away all the muck, all 1 of them, and then use Baby Doll Eyes to weaken the small Revavroom. That's because only our Flareon could hit it hard enough, but this thing knows Bulldoze, which would typically one-shot us here. But thanks to all of the debuffs, we could survive and finish off the Pokemon with 2 Fire Fangs, leaving Atticus with just his giant Revavroom. And this thing is the real problem for Penny. Since Leafeon has no way to damage it, we decided to go for even more Baby Doll Eyes, hoping to debuff it enough to where Sylveon could survive a few hits. Unfortunately, this plan always fails since the Starmobile has a physical and special poison type move, meaning if we debuff one stat, it's just gonna use the other move and then quickly knock out our ace. We tried this battle several different times using various strategies like Draining Kiss to give us some extra turns, and even learning a super effective move like Psyshock, but all of my attempts ended in failure. And I figured, if I can't beat this thing in 3 different tries using my very tired, old-aged, somewhat distracted by an hour-long YouTube video as I am listening to right now, dumb, stinky human brain, there's no way Penny and her AI could win this battle. So even though there might have been a chance to win here thanks to some extremely well-timed critical hits, I'd say that Penny would lose to Atticus. But it's an open world game, I'm only stuck here because I'm trying to not overlevel. Realistically, we can just come back later and stomp through his team no problem. Unfortunately for me, the game was not too happy about this approach since it decided to not spawn in the traders needed. Okay, there he is. But still, it did not spawn the text box that indicates I could interact with him or that he's part of the gym test, so I'm still gonna dock some points from this definitely finished game. Anyways, compared to Atticus, the fight with Larry was an absolute joke. We spammed Snarl on the Komala, which put us to sleep and knocked us out with a few slams, but that was intentional since I just wanted to send out Flareon and do some real damage. Also, anytime you hear me switch Pokemon in these runs, it just means that the Pokemon that was out in the battle, they fainted. They're gone. I don't switch out, it's set mode. We turned things around by giving it the baby doll eyes and then spamming Leaf Attack, but her HP was dangerously low. Either way, Larry followed up with his Ace, which used its Intimidate to lower our attack, and I think it's kind of funny how the two main ways to lower attack in this game is to be really scary or really cute. Anyways, we took the cute route, and since Jolteon was still stuck with that really weak Thunder Shock attack, instead of trying to do baby damage, we decided to make Staraptor do baby damage by giving it more cutesy looks. Even with all of the debuffs, this bird was still hitting pretty hard, but our Ace knew a draining move, so we could just recover our health and then quickly finish off the battle. After claiming the normal badge, it was time to go up the mountain and try out some double battles against Rhyme. While her leads were focusing on Vaporeon, we decided to go for Snarl, which happens to hit both enemies at once and breaks Mimikyu's disguise, then chipped away at its health with Water Pulse. And since all of Rhyme's ghosts are immune to Quick Attack, I kinda just had to sit there and watch as Vaporeon got absolutely destroyed the next turn. But that's okay because we could follow up with Flareon and then finish off both of her leads, especially since she was still ignoring the real problem, Umbreon. And since I knew her doggo likes to disappear from time to time, I decided to just focus on her Ace next. Sadly, the doggo decided to take out Flareon, but Rhyme's Toxtricity was kinda helping us out by hitting the doggo too with her AoE electric type move. Jolteon was still kind of useless, which means Umbreon was finally going to get taken down, and I followed up with Leafeon, which was also useless. Yay! But despite all of that, we managed to pull through and win the battle without having to send out our Ace. And the further I get in this run, the more I'm starting to get convinced that the Billion Lions might actually stand a chance. As long as they have one damaging move that's not normal type so they can hit the ghosties. Anyways, something else I found interesting about Penny's team is that it barely uses any TMs. And the 3 TMs it does use are either freely available in the early game or as rewards from the gym leaders like Rhyme and Tulip. It's a bit strange because Team Star whole shtick is that you unlock more TM recipes and crafting items, yet their leader uses none of them. Maybe it's her way of rebelling against Team Star, or maybe the game was so rushed that the developers didn't think about that aspect of the game. Either way, I thought it was pretty interesting, so I thought I'd share. Next up, we had to go to Alfornada and battle Tulip for the other TM we needed. The good news for us was that Umbreon had finally learned the move Dark Pulse, so it could actually do some damage, but the bad news for us was that Tulip has Gardevoir, which can basically one-shot us with its fairy-type moves. We tried to be funny with attacks like Fire Spin and Pin Missile, but at the end of the day, quick attacks were doing the most damage. It looks like sometimes the super effective move isn't always the way to go, unless it's on the right Pokemon. That left Tulip with just her Ace, which lost half of its health to one single attack before finishing off our Leafeon. We followed up with Vaporeon, who could chip away at its health with Water Pulse, but this fake flower actually knows a grass type move, so we couldn't quite knock it out. However, we could use the TM we got from Rhyme to finish things off without any further problems. The last gym leader in our way was the Ice Cold Grusha, whose lead could easily overpower Umbreon. I thought Flareon might be super useful in this gym since fire melts ice, however, Grusha was prepared and shook that thought out of my head. We followed up with Vaporeon, who could slowly take down the bear by raising the sea levels, then used Jolteon and Leafeon to slowly chip away at the Titan's health. It's been a while since we had to actually use our Ace, so I was getting a bit worried here. However, we still had our Draining Kiss to help recover some health, which helped us finish off the Titan and bulk through a barrage of hurricanes, which by the way did not miss a single time despite having only 70 accuracy. Either way, we managed to push through and win the final gym badge. Now typically, this is where I put the run on hold and go level up my team at the flower fields in preparation of the Elite Four since I need to gain like 10 levels. However, since I wanted to see how well Penny does against the Team Star bosses, I had to go take them on instead. Lucky for us, the first one was at the flower fields we were gonna go to anyways, so hi Ortega, he started out strong and took down our Umbreon, but we made things even since his lead happens to be weak to grass type moves. The Wigglytuff was a problem because it used our early game strategy of debuffing us with Charm and then having Leafeon fall in love thanks to its cute Charm ability, but eventually we managed to get a hit in and then knock out the Tough Buff. That left Ortega with just his dash bun, whose name is funny to say in any language. We got Balzo, Briochien, and in German, Bakel, which just kinda sounds like bagel. It's a bagel dog. Anyways, this doggo was cooking as it continued to use our early game strategies against us, spamming baby doll eyes to further weaken our Leafeon and then slowly chip away at our health. Something tells me that Ortega has a lot of influence from Penny. Anyways, I caught on to the fact that he was basically using our strategy, so I just decided to fight our strategy with our strategy, using baby doll eyes, and then making the pretzel dog basically useless, washing it down with some water type moves. Now we just had to worry about the Starmobile, which easily ran through Vaporeon, but since it only knew physical moves, I could just use baby doll eyes again and then reduce its damage to 0. Then I could use Flareon to cut its health down in half and send out Jolteon to finish it off. Man, the power of debuffs really goes a long way in Pokemon, just like the power of glitches, because oh boy, I keep encountering them in this run. Nothing, it was just light, no Pokemon. And it kinda stayed there during our fight with the Titan, and I went back to check and there was still no Pokemon. False Dragon? More like False Light. So I'm not gonna lie gamers, it's kinda disheartening, but somehow it's less disheartening than Eri, the final Team Star leader. Talk about a dumb transition here, but she has somehow managed to destroy most of my teams with relative ease in previous runs, and she's the main reason I don't cover Team Star when making the character-based videos. Eri is simply that good, but let's see if my team of Sword Alliance can change that perception. While our lead Pokemon is weak to fighting types, it does know a Psychic type move, Psychic, which we got from beating Tulip, and that move happens to be super effective against Pokemon like Toxicroak. Eri followed up with Simeon, who used Close Combat to instantly return the favor, although that move will lower its user's defenses a bit every time it's used. This means we could follow up with Vaporeon, who could take a hit and then deal major damage thanks to all of the debuffs. And since we know Quick Attack, we can just finish off the monkey before it commits any more business! Monkey business! Sadly, Eri has another monkey which kinda has Goku hair and Goku vibes, and is a ghost type, so we can't hit it with Quick Attack, which means we have to send out our evolutions and hope that one of them is fast or bulky enough to take a hit. Flareon is neither. Since I was getting quite scared, I decided to go for Baby Doll Eyes, lowering this thing's attack a bit and then finally surviving a hit. Then I followed up with Leafeon, who could slice through this defenseless monkey's HP bar like an overused joke I make about a 1000-degree knife through butter. Anyways, Eri was not done yet. She still had her Lucario, which could resist all of our Leafy attacks and dish out major damage with its Aura Sphere, leaving us with just our ace. Thankfully, her Steel-type Pokemon only knows 3 moves, none of which are super effective, so we could finish it off with a Moonblast. But she still had the car, and that car knows a super effective Steel-type move, which means we were done for, so I thought. For some reason, the game's AI decided to use all of its turns spamming Gear Shift, a move that boosts its own stats instead of Spin Out, a Steel-type move that would have two-shot us. So instead we got to attack it with Moonblast twice and dealt just enough damage to get the knockout and win. Realistically, if the AI for Eri was smarter, then she definitely would have won here, but I'll consider this getting lucky and take the win. Having defeated all the Team Star bosses, we still had one more fight to go before clearing the Starfall Street main quest. However, due to level caps, we had to put this on pause and go take on the Elite Four instead. Rika wasn't much of a problem since we had Vaporeon, but her Ductrio did manage to dodge like 4 attacks in a row. All that did was annoy me a little, but it wasn't enough to stop Leafeon from cutting down her team. Up next was Poppy, who is always a problem. However, we had Flareon, which could burn through most of her team. It didn't last long enough to go after the Magnezone, which could zap away our Vaporeon and somehow managed to freeze Jolteon, meaning we couldn't move at all, giving the Magnet 2 free knockouts back to back. Thankfully, Leafeon was just strong enough to finish things off, but we still had to deal with the Pink Menace, which has prevented way too many trainers from becoming champion. However, since it is a physical attacker, we could just use Baby Doll Eyes to lower its strength a bit, giving our Sylveon a few extra turns to attack with Shadow Ball, and that's how much we do with a Critical Hit. Great. Unfortunately, one hit from its Gigaton Hammer nearly knocks us out, meaning it's time for me to finally use that one-time heal. The good news is that Gigaton Hammer is a move which cannot be used back to back, so we can actually live long enough to deal some more damage, and since it only has a few HP left, we could use Quick Attack to outspeed and actually get a win here? What? Despite the odds being against her favor, it looks like Penny could win against Poppy as long as she carries one single heal item for the whole run. But a win is a win, so we get to go up against Larry next. We were running out of PP for a Dark Pulse attack, so while Tropius was setting up its Sunny Day Solar Beam spam, we had to switch over to spamming Psychic. And since neither of us was hitting too hard, we had to exchange blows for several turns until Umbreon managed to get the knockout. Larry sent out his Staraptor next, so of course we had to give it the baby doll eyes before it punched our lead. Then we followed up with Jolteon, who could one-shot the bird with Thunder. In typical confused AI fashion, Larry followed up with Altaria, which took quite a bit of damage from our Thunders, although we missed half the time, so we were in the red when we finally knocked out the Cloudbird. Then he followed up with the smart choice, Oricorio, which wouldn't take much damage from our electric type moves, but it will take normal damage from fire ones, so we had Flareon burn through its HP instead. That left Larry with just his lead, and since it's a physical attacker, that meant we could just spam Baby Doll Eyes to lower its damage, and wait for him to knock out our Fiery Fox. Then we sent out Leafeon, which also spammed Baby Doll Eyes, while the Florida bird struggled to do much damage with its super effective moves. Now that we know it was safe to attack, we could send out Vaporeon and use Aurora Beam for some major damage, although Larry kept attacking with Brave Bird, which ended up making him lose the battle thanks to recoil of all things. That left us with just Hassel, who used his Northern's powerful bite to ignore our high defenses and just slice our health in half. Meanwhile, we chipped away at its HP with our Dark Pulse attacks and had a final attempt with Quick Attack, but it just wasn't strong enough to get the knockout. Flareon could actually finish the job, especially since it's got a really high physical attack stat. Hassel responded with Dragalge, which knows Hydro Pump. Meanwhile, we were doing baby damage with our Fire Spins. Vaporeon seemed like a good choice here, since it knows Ice Beam, but I did not realize the Poison Dragon also had an electric type move. We still got the knockout, but took way too much damage in the process. And the bad news for us was that Flapple was a bit faster, so sadly our Water Fox couldn't do much else. We sent out Leafeon next, which could deal decent damage with its X-Scissor attack, and even managed to pull quite the number on Haxorus, getting it in the yellow and debuffing it with our Baby Doll Eyes. Then we followed up with Jolteon, who failed to get the dragon with its spin missiles, but it did manage to finish it off the second time round. That left Hass with just the top brass, who happens to be a physical attacker, so we could use our Baby Doll Eyes to make it not so scary. And since Sylveon and its fairy typing have an advantage here, we just had to attack with Moonblast to 1 HP. Of course. Fine, we'll just finish it off with a quick attack instead. Man oh man, what I've learned so far is that the debuffing moves are really good in this game. The amount of times I've struggled against Poppy and Hassel specifically because of their ace Pokemon hitting too hard, all of that could have been avoided by just lowering their physical attack stats a tad with things like Intimidate or Baby Doll Eyes. Unfortunately for me, most other trainers in the region don't use these kind of moves, and the top champion, Gita, is part of that group too. She don't use them. Of course, her lead Pokemon can copy our buffs, but if we go in the offensive, there's not much she can do. The Go-Goat can be trouble, but it's not too bad if we lower its attack a bit, and it's weak to Bug-type moves. Although it looks like some of her attacks can debuff as well, just not reliably. Too bad for Gita, since any debuff gets ignored if we land a critical hit. Unfortunately for us, her Avalugg is way too bulky for Leafeon to handle, so instead of trying to attack, we set up some debuffs of our own, then followed up with Flareon, who could burn through its, wait, why did my second attack miss? And I'm just now realizing that you cannot check move descriptions when picking what Pokemon to send out next. Seems like an important feature if you ask me. Anyways, we sent out Vaporeon and finished off the Iceberg. Then we used some more of our Water Pulses to weaken the King Gambit, and let Jolteon finish it off with a Thunder, when the move decides to hit. That left Gita with just her Ace, who takes major damage from her electric attacks, but we have too few HP to do anything else. I was a bit concerned to use a Fairy type against her Glimmora since we are weak to Poison type moves, but we managed to bulk through one attack just fine and finish off the fight with a powerful Moonblast. Now typically, I'd end the journey here since I usually want to see if a character could become champion. However, Penny is one of the 3 rival friends, and her story is not over yet, because before getting to conclude the Starfall Street quest, we have one more trainer to best. Clive, the vending machine with better marketing. Turns out he's actually the director of the whole school, and he's kinda cross with Penny for causing this whole big mess in the first place. So of course we'll settle things the only way we know how, with a Pokemon battle. His lead Pokemon is part Psychic, which means we can just spam Dark Pulse and knock it out. However, it puts us to sleep with Yawn, and typically this monkey would be extra annoying by using moves like Dream Eater, but since we're a Dark type Pokemon, Psychic type moves cannot hit us. This means we can just bulk through a couple of weak foul plays and then finish off his lead once we wake up. Out next is Abomasnow, who wants to show us what true defense really means by setting up an Aurora Veil. That basically makes all of our moves fail, to do any damage that is, but he can't seem to do much damage either, so once again we bulk through and slowly chip through its health, stalling out the Veil in the process. Next up is Gyarados, who can actually hit hard, but is a physical attacker, so once again it's time for Baby Doll Eyes. Then we followed up with Jolteon, who can just one-shot the flying fish and deal major damage to this dish. Well, Teapot, are teapots considered a dish? Anyways, Vending Machine sends out a Moldy Bee next, who is quite bulky and spams Hex. We follow up with Flareon, who has the advantage, using Fire Spin for some between turn damage, which works out in our favor since the Fungus Among Us puts Flareon to sleep with Spore, but we quickly wake up and settle the score. That leaves Clive with just his ace, Skeleturge. Man, that's based. He actually got that Pokemon because I picked Sprigatito as my starter. I figured out of the 3 options, the cat looked the most like an Eevee. Anyways, since this Pokemon is a special attacker, there's no point trying to spam Baby Doll Eyes. Instead, we sent out Vaporeon and used Water Pulse, a super effective attack, to finish off the fight and send Clive back. The director's office or something. I don't know, but happy ending for Team Star. Woo! Anyway, since I'm already here, I decided to go battle Arven and Nemona. The Foodie was a fairly easy match, but Nemona proved to be quite strong. However, thanks to the power of Baby Doll Eyes, we could make her ace just weak enough to survive its attacks and manage to get our win. And since our crew was all together, we could now sneak into Area 0 and go battle the real final boss in this game. Our past. Ultra Mega Dan! No, I'm not going all the way to Sword and Shield for this. We're fighting AI Sada instead. Story-wise, Penny and the crew are down here to help, so I'm kinda curious to see what would have happened if she had hacked her way into the security system and removed the locks from her Pokeballs. Could Penny defeat AI Sada? Considering her lead is the perfect counter to Umbreon, maybe not, but at least we can debuff it a tad with them Baby Doll Eyes, and then let Flareon do the dirty work instead. It could also deal major damage to the Ancient Fungus, but we took way too much damage from recoil to take another hit. Thankfully, Jolteon could come on in and actually do something with those pin missiles for once, although their usefulness did not last long at all, as all they could do against the Sandy Shocks is chip away at its health. But now that I look at it, it's not that bad. This meant Leafeon could come on in and finish it off with a Leaf Blade, and then do the same to cut down the Scream Tail, although this Ancient Puff did scare me with all those Ice Punches. They were just very weak for some reason. Fluttermane is an actual obstacle since this thing is a fast special attacker and has quite the special bulk, meaning our poor Vaporeon could only hope to lower its health but not pull out a win here. That left us with just Sylveon, who had to take a Shadow Ball to the face before getting to throw it right back at the Fluttermane and finish it off, leaving AI Sada with just her ace, Legally Distinct Mega Salamence. And since this thing failed to finish us off with a single Earthquake, we could fire off a Moonblast at the Roaring Moon and make it evolve into something that's a little less weak to fairies. And with that, I have all of my answers. Penny had to send us to take on Team Star, not only because she's shy and awkward, but also because she couldn't actually win against Don Atticus and probably Eri. On the other hand, Penny is a really strong trainer, capable of easily sweeping through the gyms, Elite Four, Champion, and even the AI Professor. Most of the in-game trainers couldn't do half of that, meaning that Penny truly deserves the title of Champion. And her role as the leader of Team Star. She is smart and strong and morally dubious. Perfect leader qualities. Check out the rest of the character runs I've made in these playlists, and if you want to see me do another run like this, drop a comment using the keyword moon. I repeat, keyword moon. That way I know you're serious about your suggestion. Either way, thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.